It's no secret that our boy Issei thinks a lot with his dick, but we here at Bad Anime think with our balls, because we are sponsored by Manscaped. That is right, use our code BAD20 or BAD20 at checkout at manscaped.com to buy anything with 20% off. That's really exciting. Thank you for supporting our podcast, and you can show us some other support by buying some ball things. But for now, strap in, strap up, strap on, lock, show. Let's do the show.
It's bad. Anime.
Alrighty. My name is John.
And my name is Rob.
And this is Bad Anime, the show where we decide,
is this anime bad? Do you like tits?
Well.
Because we have more fun bags than you can handle, more jumblies than you can shake a stick at, more memories that will drive you batty. This is High School DXD. Well, I was going to say Season 2, but technically the name of this season is High School DXD New.
Yes, and the W makes a pair of titties. I don't know if you probably did notice that.
I was about to say, don't you mean yabos?
I can't even remember any of the terms now. There are just too many.
Well, that's the thing. They bombard you in the head like a pair of jumblies, to the point where you're just dizzy by the end of an average episode. More so this time around, because I was trying to do a little prep for this episode.
Okay.
Because I remembered the key elements of Season 2, but I'm like, let me go through and reread some of the plot synopses and remember what happened. And then I was confronted by walls and walls of text, and I'm just like, okay, because one of the running themes of the first time we talked about DXD, Season 1, you were famous for saying, the plot doesn't matter, which is a point I agree with, especially for Season 1.
Yes.
Things kind of take a different turn in Season 2.
They do. I think that the plot becomes less in the background. It becomes more of a forefront of the show.
Exactly.
By design, probably. Because
yes.
I'm sure somebody at the studio was like, all right, we got to actually do some storytelling here instead of just showing nip. But the thing is, with this show, like, if you're not showing nip, you're not High School DXD. So they managed to, I think, with this season, if I can just give like an overarching thought real quick.
Sure.
This season, I think, accentuated the story.
Yes.
Brought more characterization with it. But also kept showing nip, baby. So it's the same show, but just with more nip, more story, more Kiba. It's got a little bit more of everything, and it's new. It's new to me.
And that's why I was so excited for you to watch this season, because you kept going on about Kiba, even though at that point in Season 1 he didn't really do anything yet.
He was just like a random hot dude that everyone was like, what? Kiba, ooh. Except for the girls in the occult research club. They very much view him like as a brother.
Exactly. But
which always was strange to me. But,
not even the anime
Issei's
kind
like
of brother.
Hunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, not even the Sword Art Online half brother,
Oh. Fresh wounds, sir. Very, very fresh wounds at time of recording.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, that episode just got published recently, and I listened to it again. I'm like, oh yeah, Season 2, the second half of Season 1 was kind of stupid.
He just couldn't change his name in the fairy game, could he? He just couldn't. Had to be Kirito again, Well, couldn't be Kazuto.
Pouncey, thinking of another name is so hard.
You're right. It is very difficult. I can't even think of another name besides Kiba right now.
Well, I think all your blood is currently flowing to your erection, so I can understand if you're getting a little loopy.
What are you talking about? I don't have a... Oh, let's move on to something else, please.
No, we are not, because Kiba actually did something. Well,
he's got a spotlight in this season, at least like the first...
couple episodes.
A story is told about Kiba, about his origin story, about his life, which, we are going to get into, because I think that is probably one of the most important points of this season, is that it does put a lot more focus on the storytelling, as we've said.
Yes.
And Kiba's story in this season is basically that he He was raised in like this program that they were trying to develop holy sword users, I believe.
Yes.
To use these things called holy swords that are very good in fighting devils.
Yes.
Because it's pretty much like an insta kill. Like it's pretty rough for a devil to go against a holy sword. There are only a finite amount of ones, from what I ascertained. And there's even less of those that are actual real holy swords that are pure holy swords that can damage people. Kiba essentially went through this entire experimentation phase, got out alive, to seek revenge on the people that made him do all this stuff and killed all of his friends. I was
about to say that was a big thing. A lot of his friends who we made through the program were all killed off because of their inefficiencies. So Kiba's coming in like a hot-blooded young stud that he is.
Coming in hot. He
looking
is
for revenge.
Pissed off. And Rias found him after he got out, and she let him join up with the crew. So, it's been some time since then, but this season sees a big activity for Kiba now, kind of getting back in that because the Holy Sword's become a big plot point this season around. And honestly, if you wanted me to expand further, sorry. I can't do it. Can't do it. I gotta say, like, they really tried. They really tried with the plot this season. And it was very entertaining. I gotta say, the whole season was very fun to watch, but there, I got to a certain point and I was like, all right, I don't even know who this Sir Zex guy is. What is this? What is he even doing? Who is he? There's like the fallen angels, there's the devils, there's, the angels. It all got really jumbled. And the funny part was it got really jumbled, but I didn't care. I didn't care that it got jumbled.
Wow. Are you saying the plot guy here was overwhelmed by the amount of plot?
It was too much plot.
Too much plot. Okay.
Too much plot. Because the first part of this show I felt was perfect. Even as a plot guy, like finishing the first season, I knew at the end of that first season that, okay, the plot that was in the forefront of this, and that's fine. Let's just enjoy this. It's very funny. It's very entertaining. Yeah. This whole season, way too much. I think they tried to inject too much plot into it. So then it just became an overall mess. They had like 3 different bad guys that kept recycling through in and out. Yeah. And it was just way too much. And I just didn't understand the crossover. And mid all of that, everybody's making jokes and like flinging boobs. And I'm like, this is hilarious. But what is going on in this scene?
Okay, I can understand that. Well, the thing is, we got some people who are very much established as villains. Well, season 2 was, like I said, I don't know, jumbled to a point, but what they tried to do, at least from all my recollection, they tried to balance everything out between the 3 factions.
Yes.
The devils, fallen angels, and angels.
Right.
I didn't expect it to be that diplomatic with them saying, like, okay, there's a place in the world for all of us. It's like, what? And it's like, oh, only...
It was very interesting, especially when they had, like, a table meeting with, like, all of the factions gathered, and they were like, let's agree, no war. And everyone was like, yeah, also, I'm here for no war. And then it was like, oh, yeah, me too, no war. I don't really like that idea of war, so let's just not do it.
Yeah, so it was just very weird, though, because now, through season 1, we're led to believe that the fallen angels and the angels both have it out for devils. That just the difference is the fallen angels are more extreme. They originally kind of depicted it as the fallen angels being the extremists, you know what I mean? Like, they're the ones who've fallen from grace because out of sheer hatred and spite. They kind of said, here's the thing. I don't want to blame the production studio for this too much, because it could have been very much the work of the author of the light novels saying, I'm going to tell an epic war story. And I'm like, if you want to do that, write a new epic war story. Don't cram one into your pre-existing series that was traditionally very light on story. But that becomes a story in like the later half of the series. And we even learn more about the inner workings of devil houses. Rias has her house,
Right.
And they dove into this last season as well, but they kind of expanded upon it here, where the whole chess thing with the
pawn, the rook, like Issei's the pawn.
Well, Issei is literally all the pawns.
Yeah, that's right. He has the power of every pawn. That's right.
Which is kind of sick. I mean, it just is
pretty cool.
Yeah, he's just that fucking powerful. But how everyone in Rias's family has the power of chess pieces. She's the king. Akino's the queen. In many ways, she's the queen.
Yes.
So,
Oh yeah.
Konako is our rook with like the increased strength, which is funny because she's a little cat girl demon thing. And then we have Kiba, and they expand more on the lore of knights, because who are the swordsmen in this, little fiasco we have going on here. We meet two angels, or are they just holy warriors? I kind of forget. We have Issei's...
I think they're of the church, I guess.
Of the church, yes. We have...
Because neither of them are dead.
No.
Yet. But it's Zenobia and Irina.
Yeah, and those are these two hot, busty new waifu candidates who show up. Irina...
Pretty much, yeah.
Irina is Issei's childhood friend, which he doesn't have a very strong memory of. And
no.
I think at one point he even says, like,
he thought she was a boy.
He's like, wait, weren't you a dude?
Yeah. And she shows up and she's like, Issei, remember me from childhood? And he was like, whoa, you have what? Boobs? And you're not a dude?
But I will say this is where the comedy of the show shines through again, because whenever Issei looks at another female, you have 3 or 4 females all getting very mad at Issei for doing that.
But then fawning over his affection later. It's very funny.
Well, exactly, because at this point in the show, Rias and Asio were already there in terms of sweating that dick hard.
And they both actually moved into Issei's house.
They did.
It's at the point where they sleep with him every night. And I gotta say, to bring it back to what made the show special, especially after the first episode, I took a lot of notes in the first few episodes just on funny shit that happened, and then I just started to just enjoy it myself, and then just didn't care anymore about notes.
Gotcha.
But at the beginning of episode 1, Rias basically asks Issei if he wants to bone, and Issei responds with, "Well, I'm a dude, so yes, that works."
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Asio removes her clothes and tries to get into bed with Issei and Ria, so they all sleep naked together every night. Because Asio, quote, doesn't want to be left out anymore.
Yes.
My note early on was I'm very happy the show hasn't changed at all, and they even leaned in a bit more. This season, all the club meetings, or most of the club meetings now, are at Issei's house, and his parents are just okay with that. They call them, at one point, the mom calls them the Insult Research Club. So it's very, oh my God. The parents, the obliviousness of the parent characters in the show gets me every time. And the dad just being like, it's great that we all have all this company, but I just can't understand why you all like Issei.
He's just constantly ragging on his son, even though he has 2 gorgeous girls living with him, sleeping in their bed every night.
To the point where the entire first episode, I thought, was essentially everybody sexually assaulting Issei, but him loving every second of it.
Yes.
There is one quote that he said when Rias and Asya are standing over him with their titties out.
Yes.
And he says, "We have reached titical mass." So the lines just get even better this season, I must say. But yeah, and to your point earlier, we did add some... Yeah, we did add some new characters. We added Zenobia, and we did add Irina. I mean, essentially how this works out is that Irina is not down with the devils.
No, she's not.
Zenobia discovers that God is dead, apparently. And then she's like, oh, all right, I guess the church really doesn't matter anymore, so I'm going to join the devils.
Yep, and then she becomes the second knight.
Yeah. Yes, the second knight, and she's also the other sword wielder. And the reason Irina doesn't come to become a devil is because she doesn't know God's dead, and Zenobia is like, I just didn't want to spoil it for you. But she eventually finds out later. Yeah. So Zenobia joins the devils, and they're all trying to kind of do a couple things this season, one of which take down the Holy Sword experiment guy who's running around. He's like a scientist kind of character. Yeah. But another big point of this whole season is that Issei's Red Dragon Emperor guy, his boosted gear, keeps yelling at him, and he's like, we're gonna have to eventually fight the White Dragon Emperor. And Issei's like, rough. I don't know when that's happening, but I love the way. Oh my God, I love the way the dragon talks to Issei, because it's just so frank. But his voice sounds so epic. But he's just like, yeah, bro, we're gonna have to fight this guy eventually. And Issei's like, well, okay.
My favorite is when the Dragon Emperor is just fed up with Issei's behavior. He actively hates him. And there's even one point when Issei gets like proficient at stuff like disintegrating clothes. Actually, I don't remember if this is this season or not, but fuck it, it's a spoiler if it is. And just the Red Dragon Emperor starts crying because that's what he has to do. Like, just hating
like,
his
of
life.
course, out of all the people I could be attached to, I'm not attached to a weakling. I'm not attached to a strong person. I am attached to a pervert. And that is the only thing that I have in my life now.
I'm attached to this perverted soul. And now the Red Dragon Emperor just flares up now because it was in the end of last season, Issei sacrificed his arm. So now his arm's technically property of the Red Dragon Emperor. It expanded, and sometimes he'll just have this giant arm of battle armor appear out of nowhere. And then the Occult Research Club has to quickly calm it down. He's like, oh, fuck.
And I would love to go into detail about how they calm it down.
Yeah, don't they just like rub it down like weirdly sexually?
No. It's much more fascinating than that.
Okay.
So the way that they have to get the energy out of Issei's arm, rather often, and how they do that is it's an Akeno job,
of course
and both of those words you can take literally, because what Akeno does is she just has to suck Issei's fingers.
I forgot about this,
until he basically comes.
Yep.
That happens at least like 2 to 3 times throughout this entire season. And the first time it happens, everybody's like, well, Akeno, you know what to do. And she's like, oh, yes, I do. And Issei's like, what's happening? And she's like sucking his fingers. And it's obviously very sexual the whole time. And Issei's like, oh, my God. Oh. And then he just creates some pearly whites in his pants, essentially. Yep. And she's like, well, all done. Fantastic. And I think this kind of bonding leads Akeno to this season really, really come through as a waifu candidate
and start falling for Issei.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there's the great because the only episode I remember like weirdly in depth is the pool episode, because it's the one episode.
Oh, the beach episode. Oh my God.
Well, no, remember, is that a pool? So it's functionally
the pool. It's
functionally a beach episode where the story comes to a complete halt, so we can just look at some titties for a half hour.
Pretty much. And I gotta say, I did remember this episode because you showed this episode to me years ago.
With no context,
you gotta see this. And I was like, okay.
Yep.
And I remembered pretty much all of it, especially the part where Zenobia asked Issei very straight up, because like, hey, would you mind impregnating me?
Yep.
And he's like, excuse me?
Yep. And earlier in that same episode, Akeno just tried to have sex with him.
Yep, very much so.
Yeah,
leading to kind of a competitive thing with Akeno and Rias and whatnot.
Yep.
So there's like some competitive energy there. So basically, everybody wants Issei to bone them.
There was a great line from Asuya in that episode when they catch Zenobia about to do the deed. And Asuya says something to the effect of, Issei, you idiot. Why did you tell me that's what you wanted? I would have done it. And Issei's like, huh?
Excuse me?
It's like, well, now I know. It's like, she's been sleeping in your bed naked for weeks. I think she wants to bone.
It's bad.
Listen here, listeners. I know your balls are looking nice, but you know what could use a shape up? Your beard. And breaking news, Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right. They're once again revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shape your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to manscaped.com and using code BAD20, that's BAD20, for 20% off and free shipping. And ain't that great? Now back to the anime.
It's bad.
There's also one line in the pool episode that really got me, and this is one of those. I think I talked about this in our season 1 review as well.
Yep.
There are these random offshoot lines that aren't even sexual that are very funny.
Yes.
And this whole season, the one that I wrote down that was like a not at all like no titties, no nothing, no like sexual nature. It's when Zenobia is on Issei. Yeah. And she's like speaking, and her voice is very straightforward, right?
Yes.
And just very like direct, and she doesn't really get like fluctuate a lot.
Yeah, she's
and it's
very
very
monotone.
forward.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think Issei or somebody is like, Zenobia, why are you so dramatic all the time? And she just responds, that's just my voice.
I forgot about that.
It's magnificent.
But I do remember that line. It's like, that's just my voice. And it's like, huh.
It's
Neat.
It is magnificent. And the amount of other lines that are in here, like I have Issei saying at one point, forgive that ass, don't spank it. When Rias is forced to discipline Issei and Asya for doing something that they shouldn't have done, which is help Kiba.
Yes.
Against Rias's will.
Yep.
She basically has to give them 100 spankings, and she gives Asya 1, and she's like, "That's enough, you're fine," and gives Issei the other 99. So that's where the show succeeds.
That's where it shines.
And that's where season 2 succeeds. Because as we go on later in the show, there come up to be these characters that I don't exactly know what they want. But there is this one character that makes himself known and wants to destroy the town and the school. He's like this big like fallen angel, I guess, vampire-y looking guy.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but he really wants to level the town.
In the contrast to the other fallen angel we get, who is like Issei's, because remember, a lot of Issei's early work in the Devils is him doing odd jobs that people would summon a demon for, and this one dude just like summons Issei like to casually play video games or whatever.
Yeah,
but he's in a bathrobe the entire time, and it's a little subversive because you think he's gonna eventually ask Issei to fuck, but no. The giant black angel wings come out and say, "Yeah, I'm a fallen angel. You're good company, kid.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna kill you and get out of here, scamp." It's like, who was this guy? And I honestly am forgetting his name as we speak. Was that
his name? Only because I have it up is Sir Zex.
Yeah, Zex.
Alexiel was the dumb name of the dumb fairy person in Angel Sanctuary. All these names mesh together, really. Like Sir Zex is that guy's name.
Wait, was that was that Sir Zex or what was
Sir Zex?
What was Rias's brother's name?
Oh, maybe that's Sir Zex.
Yeah, that's Sir Zex. Yeah, I just googled it. Yeah, no, that
is the Devil King. Oh, so the blonde guy. I forget who that is actually.
The black and the blonde guy.
I completely forget his name.
Oops.
I have no idea. I really just see that's what this season did to me though. Like I had so many random characters and random things going on.
Azazel.
Volley? Azazel. You were close with Alexiel actually. Azazel.
Yep. Yeah. So Azazel was like the guy, like the weird who we think is a pervert, but actually is just the leader of the fallen angels. Going like, who was just kind of fucking with Issei for a bunch of episodes. Like, why are you doing this?
I don't know why he was doing that, but
I love the fuck out of Sir Zex.
Yes, the Devil King.
Rias's brother. Yeah. He is just the ultimate dude. Where it's like
he's such a dude.
Where I remember the great scene where like it was Sir Zex and Issei. They're both in like Issei's room.
Yeah,
and Issei's like, "Sorry, I have to like sleep on a floor. You're a king." He's like, "Actually, this is nice to be like normal for a change. It's nice to have not too many people just sucking my dick all night." It was so funny. Both Rias and Asya had a mental breakdown because they couldn't sleep with Issei that night. I love Rias in particular. Like, "Oh, Issei, whatever will you do? However will you sleep? Don't forget me." It's like,
"Don't forget me, Issei."
So needlessly dramatic, which I loved. I kind of love that duality with Rias, where 1 minute she is the all-powerful like daughter of the Gremory family, and then next thing you know, she's just this whiny little baby.
Yeah, she's like, "I got feelings too, Issei."
Exactly. I love it. I love the contrast of that. But Sir Zex is like, basically, I don't remember the extent of the conversation, but he's like, "Issei, you want to bone my sister hard, don't you?"
Yeah, pretty much.
Go for it, scamp. It's like, Okay.
It's like, what is this conversation?
Well, because what I remember it was just such they had a lot of fun with it in the dub, but I just remember him basically the whole thing was him going like, yeah, I approve, it's okay, you guys could be together, but he's like, you want to touch her boobs, don't you? It's like,
bro, what are you talking about? Stop saying that. You're her brother.
It's like, it's weird. You're basically calling your sister hot, but this is anime, so some stuff
we've seen worse. We have seen much worse.
We have seen much worse, and we're probably going to continue to see much worse as the time goes on.
Yes,
unfortunately.
Yes, we will.
But yeah, and that's the thing. The show did really dump a lot of new characters on us. Surzex, Azazel, and all the leaders of these houses.
The problem was it dumped a lot of characters on us in a very short amount of time, but also tried to make them all seem important. It didn't work for a lot of them.
We didn't even talk about the little trap boy, Michael.
Oh yeah. Was it Michael?
I'm trying to remember what his name was. I don't know. Mikhail. I don't know.
Mikhail or something.
Mikhail.
Because Michael was the angel guy. I don't know, like the head honcho of their group who was at the negotiation table. That was Michael, an angel. This other guy, I don't remember what his name was. Mikhail, maybe. Yeah, I have no idea. This is what they did.
Gasper. It was Gasper.
Gasper. Yes.
Yeah, it's crazy because when you really look at the plot synopsises, they really introduced these guys from episode 8 to 12. So in 5 episodes, they just dump all these people on you.
They're long as hell too. These plot synopses. I mean, obviously, I had to refresh my memory a little bit before we got started, but at the same time, all these plot synopses are long as heck. And I'm reading through them, and I'm like, who are all these characters? I really just don't know them. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just the core group that I'm really here for.
And that's the thing. Because what season 1 did, it was so character heavy and let the story take a backseat, get to know the characters. They started doing that in this season, but then they just kept dumping more and more characters at a very fast pace. Again, I don't know if this was the anime production team deciding this. I don't know whether or not the author of the light novels took it in that direction and they just had to roll with it. I'm more likely to believe the latter because of events that happened later in the show's production. But it just got kind of messy. And to be honest, I didn't even, at the time, I didn't really understand what the hell was happening in the finale of the show. Where there was the white dragon, but there's different sects and different factions within the 3 main factions. They have all these subplots.
That was a little weird. They really tried to tie too many things together way too quick.
Yeah.
Without explaining any of them. But even if they did explain them, I feel like it would have been just generally uninteresting, anyways. Yeah. Compared to everything else that was going on in the show, which was fun.
Exactly.
So it was just I felt like they were. It was very much like anytime I got a plot dump too, it was like, oh, it's study time, school time. Here's the exposition, and here's who this is, and here's what they're trying to do.
Yes.
Here's why they're trying to do it.
Right.
By the way, we're fighting them now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That. All right. Sure. Whatever. And even to the point where it's hard to recall what happens in the last episode, but I do remember that at the beginning of the season, right? The Red Dragon Emperor says to Issei, we're going to have to fight the White Dragon Emperor and whoever their host is. And that happens, right, at the very end.
Yes.
And Issei fights the White Dragon Emperor. And the White Dragon Emperor is pretty dirty, man. He's pretty nasty. He kicks Issei's ass a lot. And then Issei, and I think at one point the reason Issei won the entire fight, which of course he does, but the reason he won the entire fight is that the White Dragon Emperor, I think, threatened to remove boobs from the world or threatened to make everybody's boobs smaller. And Issei was like, all right, you can literally kill my family, but you cannot do that.
I remember the Red Dragon Emperor was embarrassed. It's like,
he's like, is this really what it takes to get you good, man?
I do.
And he's like, I think there was a whole scene where Issei was talking himself up, and he was like, imagining Rias's beautiful big titties any smaller than they are is just impossible for me to do. Also, think of Konako. Her boobs are so small as it is. It was fucking hilarious. And that is what I wanted from the show. That is the reason he was able to beat the White Dragon Emperor, not because he believed in himself.
No.
It's because the White Dragon Emperor threatened to shrink all boobs in the world. And that's why. Because Issei's a perv first and foremost and wants a harem. And that it was the perfect. I thought it ended so well. All that shit, they stuck a landing. It wasn't the landing because I didn't even know whether what was the point of fighting the White Dragon Emperor in that point. But it was an ending. And then after that, Azazel, the fallen angel guy, becomes
the advisor
of the Occult Research Club going forward. So that's for season 3. But yeah, I thought like it did get really jumbled and weird and all these characters coming in. But when they had to do the thing, they did the thing. And I thought it was very funny and it went over well and it did what it was supposed to do. But they almost lost me a few times when I was watching. If it wasn't as funny and engaging every episode and they didn't have good quips and good lines, I would have gotten lost. I think I would have probably, if I didn't have to watch it for the show and that was happening and they didn't have the humor to keep up with it, it would have been gone for me, I feel like. But because they had that humor, I was still in it. And because they had the intrigue of like, ooh, who's going to end up with Issei? Even though, of course, nobody is because he wants a harem. But, you could see like Akano moving in. You could see Asya and Rias and even Zenobia. I almost said Xanadu.
Olivia Newton-John.
Olivia Newton-John. But, yeah, I thought in general, without all that, it would have been very flat if they just relied on the plot, which made me think of this is what Angel Sanctuary is. Just with Angel Sanctuary just didn't have a fun hook, and this has a fun hook.
Exactly. When it comes to season 2 of the show, I kind of said, oops, because I firmly came in today, before I reviewed the show, I said, oh, fuck, I'm screwed, because a lot of my memories were actually from season 3. So I'm like, oh crap, what the fuck happened in season 2? So I quickly reviewed and I remembered some key elements, some key episodes. I remembered Kiba's arc very well. And up to the pool episode, and then afterwards.
That was very well defined. I felt like Kiba's arc was very well defined.
Yeah, so the first half of the show kind of was solid in terms of keeping the story, plot, and the plot, character work, and the humor all balanced, right?
Yeah.
It got a little too plot heavy as the show went on. The humor was never lost. This was kind of a transitional season in a lot of ways because they're doing a lot of building up to like much larger stories, but the execution was a little rushed. Little haste was taken when it didn't need to be, unfortunately. So it did drop the ball a little bit. I think it's fair to say this season wasn't as complete of a package as the first season, because the first season had such an amazing balance. This show, this season was a little disappointing in some ways. But I remember being very high on Zenobia when I first watched this season, because she's a very funny straight man to all the wild zaniness going on.
She is.
Having her be deadpan the entire time really gets a chuckle out of me every time.
I think so too.
So I really enjoyed her presence. She brought a great contrast to the team. Issei freaking out about Gasper originally was pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's like another dude. He's a dude?
He's like, no more dudes, only babes from here on out.
Except Kiba, you stay.
Yeah, Kiba, you're cool. We like you, Kiba.
Yeah, so looking back, season 2 was a little bit more of a mess than I remembered in terms of the ending and how to deliver certain key plot elements. And the pacing was a little... Again, one of my quickest complaints with Japanese media is the pacing and kind of fucking it up. But then again, I understand Japanese pacing and Western pacing is different.
Right.
But even so, some things are a little rushed here, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
I felt that too.
this season was messy, but to get to our final thoughts, cannot call it bad yet. Not gonna do that because there were some outrageously funny moments and some kind of cool shit going on with Kiba in there. And occasionally, just the comedy just carried the show through. This season in particular, even like
100%.
after the midpoint of this season, the comedy kind of pulled it through. There was a lot of seeds to lay this season, and I propose let's keep this train rolling. Let's get to season 3 because this is foreshadowing here, but some of my favorite episodes in this series are in the next season.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, that's a good sign. That's a good omen.
Well, I said favorite episodes. Let's see how much weight that holds next time. But Bouncy, I'm sorry, we didn't get to your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I also have to go with not bad. It really wasn't. I think even though I did complain a bit about how they tried too much with the plot this time around, I will say that every episode I was excited to watch the next episode. I think that there were elements about some, and for that reason, I mean, it was either because I was excited about the next episode to see like, what funny stuff are they going to say in the next episode, or what I found more likely than not in this second season was, all right, let's see if this plot shit ends anytime soon so we can get to the fun part. That was pretty much where I was at, like where my head was at the whole time watching the second season. Like the Kiba arc was great. I thought that was really good. I thought that worked. That really helped us like understand a little bit better our defined characters.
Yes.
But after that, towards the second half, it kind of like got pulled in all these people who I was like, who the fuck are you? Like, I don't really care. Can we just get to the part where like Issei is like deciding between Akano and Rias and like things happen, like shenanigans ensue? Because that was what I was really looking forward to. Episode to episode, like kind of more like slice of life stuff than I was like the whole, badass fight stuff.
Right. So yeah, it just proves what you came here for, and a lot of people came in here with the I don't really know how people approach DXD a lot of the time because I know some people personally who are very into the story, and I'm like, really? And they're like, they're like, don't get me wrong, I love all the boobs and the jokes. But then I know some people who watch exclusively the sub, and I'm like, you gotta watch the dub. And it's like they're like, well, no, the dub's too funny. I'm like, that's the point.
That's the point.
It's high school girls with size Z boobs fighting demons, fallen angels, and angels. If you don't think there's any element of comedy in the original, you need to get your stick out of your ass. It's that simple.
You're crazy because this plot was so weirdly dense and like very strange to follow, and it's not. And I gotta say, like, as I can't recall some of the elements of the plot, but as someone that actually paid attention and watched every episode throughout and paid attention to the plot, I can honestly tell you right now, it does not matter. Once again, do not worry about it. At least that's my take. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Just have fun. Relax, have a good time. Don't read too much into shit. Just like be entertained. That's all I have to say about this show for the second season.
Have fun.
Not bad, fun. Just a fun time. They get a little serious sometimes. That's okay. I think it needs that for the balance.
Right.
But as far as the extra characters coming in, as far as like them trying to do stuff with like the fallen angels, devils, and the angels, all that stuff, the politics of it, don't read too much into it. It's just a fun time, and we'll see if I feel the same way when season 3 comes around.
Yeah, I'd say next time. Let's well, not next time because we have more episodes released before that. But I say, Bouncy, you and I have some more viewing to do, and we have some more opinions to form because there's 2 other seasons of High School DxD with a 5th one on the way. So,
wow, 5th one, wow, ooh, okay, wow, okay. So we're in this for the long haul. I think
we're in this for a long haul, my friend. Cheers.
Ayo, cheers, buddy. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you soon.
It's bad.
Wow, oh my god, what a rousing podcast of anime conversation. Am I right, my compares? Am I right, my weebdom? Anywho, yeah, you can send us a message if you want. Did you like this podcast? Did you hate this podcast? Do you want to kill me? Do you want to drench me in Calaxosaur blood and watch me drink it? That's fine. Just send us an email at badanimepod@gmail.com or DM us on our Instagram at badanimepod, all one word. You can also find us on YouTube as Bad Anime, and you could leave a comment on whatever video you want to leave a comment on. We'll read them all anyways. We don't care. I love you. Kiss, kiss.
Simple Equations Podcast Network.